pick you up and carry you home. Anywhere you go, even on your own, I won't let you down and I hope you know. Even if you fall when you're all alone, I will pick you up and carry you home.
Hello and welcome. This is How We Talk NZ, and oh my god, hang on. This is How We Diversity Discussion Podcast, and this is episode 2 for 2021. We've got a guest on today who's a local, and we are episode 21, so we are legal to drink now in the United States of America. Just letting you know, before I get into it, I won't be paying much attention to chat during the show until the end. I just want to keep the discussion focused and be able to concise enough to keep an eye on that. J-Dog says hi too. Thank you very much for that. I'll keep an eye on chat for the first little bit here. Thank you Xenos, Kin for coming in, and Hydrogen as well. Awesome stuff. I mean, I'm a bit tired today. Howdy Bush. Thanks, yeah, I'll get to you in a very short second. There's been a little bit of last minute change because he can't be on webcam this morning, but we are here to welcome Big Sugar. We'll do some quick self promo before I do though. Before we get into that. So we've got a live scene. Nope, live scene 2. There we go. We've got a Facebook group. I do advertise this quite a lot, but this is sort of where the podcast started. I was talking about if you're a Kiwi and if you love tech, talking about tech and things like that, we've got a reasonably good community over here. I've had this for a number of years now. I do have more followers on Twitch now than I do on my Facebook group, which is kind of crazy. But we are here, and so yeah, if you're keen to join our group, I think that it's a link in my description. But yeah, we'll move on to talking to our guest. So please welcome him. Hype in the chat, and yeah, we'll go from there. So I'll unmute you. I know you probably are listening, but I'll unmute you now, and we'll say good day. Awesome. Hello. Good day. How's it going? Howdy.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah. And yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, eh? Got a coffee in me.
Oh, same here, dude. Same here.
I'm on the works on it.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the one. So I suppose since I've done my self promo, I suppose it's time for you to sort of talk a little bit about yourself and about sort of how you came into streaming, what any experiences with tech that are sort of interesting to talk about before we get into it? And yeah, just it's a little bit about yourself. Yeah.
Alright, real quick, experiences with tech. I'm like one of those guys that know their way around a computer.
Yeah.
Like, pretty fucking well.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about, like, using the computer, not, like, going inside it and using all the, inside stuff. I don't know the difference between, like, different RAMs and shit. Like, I know what's good.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like... I assume I don't have the knowledge that your audience and you do. I mean, to be completely honest, I didn't build my PC.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I
like,
bought that shit.
Yeah, fair enough. And everyone, each to their own, to an extent. Like that's sort of why I did this, is to sort of help, education. That's why I got the tag on Twitch, is to sort of inform people, to spit those facts and to say, well, what's really out there, and to sort of help decode it for people, so they understand a little bit about what's going on, because I know a lot of people don't understand, and that's sort of why I'm passionate about it, is because like I'm wanting to sort of get that out there for people in a way that people understand, because a lot of people, as I said, a lot of people don't, and yeah. So
I tell you what, as soon as I go to build my PC, which I will be doing at some point, when I get the money for it, I'll definitely be coming to you, bro.
Oh, no worries, man. No, I've
on that.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I guess I do enjoy the physical aspect. I mean, I do enjoy reading about it and all that sort of thing, but actually getting down and dirty and with the screwdriver and all that sort of business and is
well, the good thing too is that you're a Kiwi. And
exactly.
if need be, and you've got time off, and I'm building my PC, I can always pay for you to get over to Christchurch or something like that.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, no fucking worries with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But
yeah, there's a lot of exciting things coming out over the next sort of few months, and I sort of haven't really talked about that aspect of things just yet, but we will certainly be covering a little portion of that on the show today. So I guess,
sure.
Yeah. So I guess as I covered last week, we're looking at sort of the 2019 to present, because I started my podcast. The end of my podcast was in the middle of 2019. So I sort of like wanted to go back and look at the previous sort of 1.5 years, really almost 2 years at this point, where tech has sort of evolved and all that sort of thing. So last week with the AMD show, today with the Intel show. So there's a lot of topics on that coming up. But to kick things off, I suppose the big news that sort of happened over the last 2 years was the 11th gen CPUs. And what they're all about, and really this topic by PC World is a great one. It sort of covers a lot of things that sort of people would like to know about it, certainly when it came out and whether it's still a thing. But Intel, I suppose, has had a history since Ryzen sort of first showed its ugly face back in 2017. Was I needed to match Intel AMD core for core. And they were behind, obviously, with their 10 plus years of being, a little bit, I suppose people would say, stifling technology, stifling the marketplace, and keeping everybody to a 4-core CPU. And up until Ryzen came out, the highest core count CPU was 6, I believe. It was 6 in the mainstream desktop market. With the 5960X, obviously the Xeon CPUs have historically, which is the server grade stuff, historically been a lot more. 12, 18 cores I think was a thing back in 2016. But so like now finally with 11th gen they got core parity. They've got 8 cores on their 11900K, and obviously it's been a shake-up since the 2015 launch of Skylake, which was a bit of a blunder, really. I didn't enjoy that launch, and I think a lot of people would be in that category as well. But they had to backport Rocket Lake because it was because initially it was going to meant to be made for a smaller process, which is the size of the transistors, which is billions and billions of them in a CPU, and that sort of gives a little bit of an indication of the efficiency and the sort of the performance of the part, with how many transistors there are and how small they are, because you can cram more of them in. but it was originally meant to be for 10 nanometer, but they didn't have that ready in time for the big CPUs that were coming out. Laptops had it, but the desktops, they were like, no, okay, we'll put it on 14 because we know 14, and that seems to work really well because they've been stuck on that since 2016. And so they had PCIe 4.0. Yes, they did have 4.0, so finally they were matching X570 with that support. Overclock, you can unlock your memory frequency on the 500 series chipsets, which is actually pretty cool. And yeah, they had a really good graphics engine, which we'll talk a little bit about further down the line. But obviously the 10th gen was out. I think I did cover 10th gen in 2019 when that came out, but because of their backporting to 14 nanometer, they actually had to reduce the core count from 10 on the 10th gen to 8 on the 11th gen. And people were a little bit upset about that because they really weren't, people were expecting to go to 12 or maybe even more, depending on whether they were going to get to 10 nanometer or not. And it was sort of like they didn't quite match Intel, AMD. I think they did take the gaming crown back again from them because the games are obviously a lot more single-threaded. But they certainly went overall productivity-wise, where AMD's normally had a strong point against, with the 11th gen comparatively. But we'll talk about 12th gen, which is literally just launched a little bit later on. But yeah, I don't know. Like, what's your experience with Intel been? And is it have you historically looked for them? Has AMD been on your radar more recently? Just a little bit of an opinion piece about what your thoughts are, because I guess I sort of I'm always curious to hear what people have to say about that sort of thing, because you sort of take it away a little bit. I've sort of been yabbering too much.
I don't know, man. Like, I feel like ever since I've had a PC in there, the talk's always been about Intel.
Yeah. Sure.
I don't know. I don't know too much about AMD.
Yeah.
But I've always heard people just everyone that I know has just pretty much said go Intel.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I don't know much about it, man. You seem to know your shit though. You seem to know your shit. I don't know shit about this. I'm learn though.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, exactly right. A lot of people, up until probably even 2 years ago, were saying Intel, go Intel. It's the more well-known platform. They've got the better support. They are actually still better for gaming, even though it's just a few percent nowadays.
Is it just because they're well-known though, or?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and the thing is, AMD, up until Ryzen, and actually after the Athlon X2 CPUs, which were killing the marketplace back in the early 2000s, like 2002, 2003, they had a really bad patch. The Phenoms were crap, the FX series was crap, and that was their history up until 2016, 2017, when Ryzen came out. People just didn't want to go AMD. I mean, I had an FX chip for a little bit, and it was crap. I didn't enjoy it at all. But so it's if you wanted the better system, just in general, Intel was the way to go up until then. And it's no wonder people were like, oh yeah, we're supporting them, because I think they've still got about 80% of the market in general. Even after Ryzen has sort of shown its face and been able to have its really driven home its performance and its availability and price against Intel, they still only have managed to grab about 20% in total. That's including the server market as well. But yeah, it's just crazy that despite Intel having a pretty shady sort of 15-20 years with his sort of historical lying and their marketing and their real negligence to the market. That's sort of what the word I was thinking about before as well. They were still on top for so long, and well, I guess they still are on top in some aspects. But it's just like and they're catching up now. They're just now catching up in terms of their technology and what they've been able to do with 12th gen, and it's just crazy to see that we're finally at a point now where we can actually compare the two as a ground up rebuild, because Ryzen obviously was a complete ground up rebuild compared to FX. But
do you think because of this, people will start going to AMD, or do you think Intel's still going to be the most popular just because of its name?
That's a good question. I appreciate that, because I didn't get much of a response with that last week. But I appreciate that. I think Intel seems to have a little bit more of a name for itself. Certainly with Zen 2, which came out in 2018, with the Ryzen 3000 series, they really, I think motherboard manufacturers started to take them seriously. Their support for software and the quality of their manufacturing within ASUS and MSI and Gigabyte and all that stuff really took up a step. You know, they produced probably the highest quality desktop motherboards other than some of the server ones that you can get on those chipsets. Because Intel have obviously put a lot more effort into, because they've got a bigger market, and overall they've been better quality because of that. But I think certainly like nowadays it's a toss up. If you're a gamer and you just game, you don't stream at all, I would say probably Intel is the way to go for the most part. But if you do a little bit of both, I think AMD certainly should be on your radar to consider what you're actually doing with your PC, because a lot of people just don't do one thing at a time. And it's kind of like, historically with 4 cores, that's all you were able to do, because you couldn't, you don't have extra resources available to be able to do more than that at once. But it's interesting, and I think certainly with next year and sort of Zen 3 Plus, 12th gen just being out now, it's going to be interesting to see where the marketplace does land with that. For sure. And a little bit of a side topic on that. It's sort of quirky things that are a little bit more exciting than talk about core architectures and stuff like that. We do have the NUC. Have you ever heard of the NUC before? Is that something that's? Is that sort of?
I have no idea what that is.
Oh.
I know you sent me something in Discord about that though.
Yeah, it wasn't on my document. Yeah.
The Beast Canyon?
Yeah, the Beast Canyon.
It looks dope.
Yeah, it is actually a pretty cool machine, because NUCs have traditionally been a thing that's like a really small form factor PC, like the size of probably a lunchbox, probably even smaller than a lunchbox.
Yeah.
And all they're meant to do...
That's a PC.
That's a PC, yeah.
A full PC.
And
How good though?
And the funny thing about this particular model is if you open it up, which I've got pictures of it here, I think they do, I'm just scrolling, yeah, you can fit a goddamn graphics card inside it. It's got a full ATX power supply, I think it's like a slightly SFX power supply, but it's still a desktop power supply. It's got a dedicated motherboard that you plug it's called a compute element, which is basically, it's a shrunken laptop that's sort of been built into its own PC that has its own connectivity on it, like the I/O on it, and then they've been able to bridge that out into a PCI Express system that you can actually plug a full-size graphics card into it. It came with a 3060. This particular model, you can fit 64 gigs RAM, 2 M.2 SSDs.
That's insane.
And it's got an 8-core, 16-thread Intel Core i9 CPU in it.
It's crazy how technology just seems to get smaller and smaller. Let's disregard the console market, because PS5 and Xbox Series X or whatever it's called
are very small.
Just getting bigger and bigger, but like, that's insane. Because you usually think about stuff like that, like technology getting smaller. That's usually like with phones or cameras and stuff like that. That's pretty insane. I've never seen something like that. Yeah,
it's pretty. I sort of thought I'd share it because this is the first time that the NUC has sort of grown this big. I suppose as the NUCs were just a laptop CPU, integrated graphics, maybe one SSD on it, and they were just designed for like office PCs. Like that's sort of what they were meant to be replacing. But this is
I've seen Apple like
the Mac Mini.
The Mac Minis, and that's mainly for people who do like editing software and stuff like that, which is it's something I do as well. So if I was to build my own PC, I'm looking at something that has like a really good build for one, gaming, two, streaming, and then I do also my graphic design stuff. So that's something else I'd be looking at.
Yeah, and I suppose if you are needing something small, then I think these things are still available, but they're quite pricey, obviously, because you're paying for the form factor, I believe. I think I saw them at PB Tech for about $2,000.
That's insane.
But
how good would these be though? Like, I mean, for gaming and streaming at the same time, would this be suitable? Or
I mean, it's an 8-core 16-thread, so I mean you've got basically a 5800X there. Obviously, it won't have the same cache as the full desktop variant because it is a laptop CPU. A boost to 4.9 gigahertz, which is really, really not too bad. The cooling obviously may be interesting, but they will. So, like in terms of actually maintaining boost clocks and stuff, I think you might be a little bit hard pressed to do streaming on this at the same time. But like everything else about it, you'd be actually almost mint. Like if you're just gaming, or if you're wanting to do one thing at a time, you'd probably do all right realistically. Like I'm not going to say that it's going to be a bad machine because it's really quite high end for what it is. But I think realistically, you might be looking at something a little bit bigger than that. And I know even myself, who's just who's got a mini ITX computer, which is probably about twice the size of this one, which I did do a build on my channel for. It's sort of like that's the smallest sort of system that I'd be comfortable using and taking apart and being able to actually get access to, because it's everything's just so in there, and like it just doesn't. You don't really want to optimize it the best you can, and it's kind of hard with everything being built for bigger systems, and then trying to cram that into something a lot smaller. It was a bit of a task, honestly, and cooling is certainly one of the biggest aspects of actually being able to maximize that with the space that you have. But I would never go to a laptop again. I had a laptop, and we've
all been there.
Well, a lot of people still are going there, and it's kind of a shame, because people think. I had a good mate of mine who I know locally who went, he went and spent $3,000 on a laptop for course, and it's been nothing but trouble. Because he does engineering, and he sort of does a lot of that sort of 3D modeling and stuff like that, and it just hasn't worked out for him at all. And it's like, how could you justify? Because he was initially going to buy a desktop. He said, I'll just replace my desktop. I keep telling him, you should have just done that.
It's all the portable talk about it. Like, I guess like if I was to buy a laptop, I don't even know what I would do with it. I'd probably just buy a laptop for graphic design if I was to buy a laptop for anything. Yeah. I would never spend $3,000 on it. A laptop. That's a lot of money on a laptop, man. And you'd you'd expect that's crazy. It to work. You'd expect it to actually do what you want to do. So I think it had like one of these 8-core Core i9 CPUs. I think it had a RTX 2070 in it. 16 gigs of RAM, multiple M.2 drives and stuff. And he actually had to, this is sort of not really related, but I think one of the C drive, the M.2 drive failed on it. But even when it was working, the graphics card would refuse to sort of do anything properly. And just the software wasn't any good. And it's just like, at least with desktops you can replace bits if things don't go. Easy, that's what they're designed for. Yeah, well, that's the thing about laptops. You can't, you can, but you can't really open them up. No. To move stuff around or replace it. It's crazy. I mean,
talking about crazy laptop things, I suppose it is Intel related. We'll try and keep things on track a little bit. But the laptop that I have, which is going back all the way to a second gen CPU, I think I bought it in 2011, 2012, somewhere around there. The CPU is actually on a socket. The i7, that's the 4-core 8-thread 2670. I'll see if I can bring up a photo of what they actually look like, but it's kind of funny. They're actually on a particular i7 2670QM. I wonder if they've got photos. Hopefully they've got photos.
So I know I bought a laptop in high school.
Yeah.
It was like $500.
Yeah.
And I mainly just used it for literally just chilling in bed and watching movies and stuff like that. That's what I see people buying laptops for. Just casual people who don't look for things like what your mate does in engineering and that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's mainly for like, like the person that I can give an example for is like my dad. I mean, he has a laptop. He doesn't game or nothing like that. He uses it for the news and shit like that.
Yeah.
He probably spent $1,000 on it, and that was it.
Yeah. I think people expect a lot more out of laptops than they're worth, personally.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's what I did. That's why I mine's just in a laptop bag in a shelf collecting dust, because I had too high of an expectation for it. They just don't do I had trouble from that day one. And they're with drivers and the software and actually things working the way they were meant to. I think even the USB ports weren't working on it. The graphics wasn't, the dedicated card that I had in it didn't work, and it was just like, I don't even know, I can't even be bothered with this anymore. And that's where I went from a desktop to a laptop, then back to a desktop again, because at least I knew that it was going to be the way that I wanted it to be. But it's crazy. It's definitely crazy. And I suppose, the 11th gen CPUs, mobile, I tried to remedy that a little bit, I guess, with being they have got the Iris Xe graphics, which is, we're going to talk about that a little bit very, very shortly. But they've got the, do they have the P cores and the E cores? I think they do in these ones, actually. Oh, see what...
Couldn't tell you.
No, I'm just sort of trying to correct myself here, actually. Because I thought that, because I know they've got that with the 12th gen, but I'm wondering if they've got that with the 11th gen as well. I don't believe they do. No, okay, I think there might be just 8-core 16-thread machines. Yeah, okay, we'll bring that up here a little bit with Live Scene 2. Yeah, so there's obviously the because I think a lot of the stuff that was built for Intel CPUs had been based around the real efficiency and the real power targets that that they've been setting for laptops. They've tried to take that over to desktops, and I think that's why there's a lot of stagnation in the market for Intel stuff for a very, very long time. But yeah, obviously it's got Gen 4, it's got the Xe graphics, which we'll talk about very, very shortly. Thunderbolt 4, that's actually kind of a cool technology. We can talk a little bit about Thunderbolt if you'd like. It's got... Sure. What else we got here? Yeah, it says it's about 15% faster than the 10th gen. I think even though it's got less cores, perhaps. It's faster than a 5900X. I don't trust Intel marketing. That can go to I don't. That can go to hell a little bit, actually. But we'll go back to us. Live stream. Here we go. So yeah, Thunderbolt. That's actually an Intel technology. I think they sold. No, they didn't sell it. They made it open source. Thunderbolt was actually quite famously known on Mac computers because they refused to use USB. I don't know why. You can. I'll ask the grave of Steve Jobs if you like, because he's got you have less idea than I do. But so it was basically a really fast interconnect that they used that replaced it actually had their display out on it, and it had their you could also connect it to fast hard drives. I think because Thunderbolt 1 was 10 gigabits per second, which is about twice as fast as USB 3. Then it went to 20. Now it's at 40. The Thunderbolt 4 is at 40 gigabits, which is crazy, because that means you can plug multiple USB 3 devices in and still have enough bandwidth left for, your 2560 by 1440 high refresh panel, or whatever you want to plug into your Mac. I don't know. But yeah, because I think HDMI 2.0 requires 24 gigabits per second of bandwidth, so there's heaps sort of left over on Thunderbolt 4 for multiple displays, or even if you just want to plug in an NVMe drive into your computer, that's kind of cool too, because I think a lot of content creators do that, who do have a portable SSD that they just take around to multiple computers. And that's a good way to plug it in. But they made it open source, because what they found is the people that were making the chips for the Thunderbolt connectivity, they sort of sold their part of it, because I think they were in collaboration with someone. And so they're like, okay, we're going to open it up now to everybody to use, and that's why we've seen Thunderbolt on AMD systems, because traditionally it actually wasn't compatible with AMD at all, and I think that's why Apple way back when went with Intel rather than AMD for their CPUs and their MacBooks and their iMacs and all that sort of thing, because they wanted Thunderbolt. I don't know why, but that's just that. And it's kind of a cool tech actually. If you want one port to do it all, like if you don't like wires hanging around everywhere, that's actually kind of a cool. And it uses the USB-C plug, because I know back with Thunderbolt 3 and Thunderbolt 2. And even going back to the first one, it used this random mini kind of DisplayPort type connection, which that's why, I don't know if you remember high school or whatever, a lot of the teachers who had MacBooks had to plug in this random adapter to their computer to run the VGA cable to their freaking projector or whatever you want to plug into.
Yeah.
And I was like, those adapters were like $40 or $50 back in the day. They were not cheap. And I was like, I always used to laugh at them, because they're like, oh, just get a freaking real laptop, I used to harass the shit out of them, because they're like, they're all poncy with their MacBooks for no good reason at all. And I was
I remember my music class always had Apple computers, and that was the first time I ever used one.
Yeah,
and
right. Yeah.
I hated the layout, the design. Yep. I feel like Windows computers are just much more customizable as well.
Yeah.
I've never understood why anyone goes for Apple. I feel like it's because of the brand and that. I mean, you think about it like Android phones and iPhones.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of concept, man. I've always been a Samsung guy. Yeah. I've never gone iPhone. I've used an iPhone for work. Yeah. Back when I worked in security, but I've never liked their software. Yeah. Not a big fan.
I mean, I think what Macs were built for is, I think, a lot of creative professionals. They've got a lot better tools, and that they traditionally ran better with Photoshop. They ran the Adobe After Effects program. It's a lot more optimized for Mac. And a lot of music producers still use Apple computers. I don't know why. Nowadays I sort of have to question it, because I think back in the day with Pro Tools and for GarageBand and stuff like that, it was a really good program to use on Macs. But I think now, because it's Windows compatible and they've got it optimized to run equally on both, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do that. And we will be talking about what Apple has revolutionized in a future program. They've got their own CPUs and chipsets and stuff out now. So if you want to stay tuned for that, I might talk about that maybe next week. But yeah, it's crazy. Like that, Apple's just a fashion statement, and the anti-rote for repair stuff that they've been doing. The fact that you sort of have to go and replace your whole machine instead of fixing it just sort of does my head in a little bit. And I sort of will probably have a little bit of a rant about that when we talk about Apple more in depth. But yeah, it's crazy that people still sort of go for it despite all the problems and all the downfalls that I can see compared to a Windows machine. Which, let's admit, I don't really like Windows 10 too much in terms of its privacy and its lack of sort of, moving towards something that isn't really Windows 7 anymore, or even Windows XP if you want to go back that far. But it's so you've got to modernize, I guess, but it's not the same experience as I remember using a PC 10 years ago, that's for sure. But so lastly, to sort of finish off the last sort of bit of the history of Intel, is their graphics have actually come a long way. I think I talked a little bit about APUs last week on the show, and that's sort of what and that's sort of traditionally where if you wanted to integrate a graphics solution, if you didn't want to run a graphics card, either couldn't afford one, couldn't find one, or didn't have the power budget to run one, you'd run an APU. The AMD systems they've put a lot of effort into the graphics portion of their desktop and laptop lines, but Intel has sort of come back fighting this time around with the Iris Xe graphics, which is their first part of their big revolution that Intel is sort of undertaking since they sort of rejigged their graphics portion of their brand over this last couple of years. And it's according to Firestrike, it's about 4 times faster than the Intel UHD 620, which came out on their 10th gen CPUs all the way back then. So it's pretty crazy that they've been able to crank out 1080p 60 FPS gaming, obviously with some caveats with low end games and all that sort of thing, but you're not expecting to play games in 4K with a Intel HD graphics. I mean, that's never been something that never been able to do. But it's they've actually really had a good think about this, and obviously it's the first part of the revolution with having graphics that are actually on par with NVIDIA and AMD on the mainstream sort of dedicated segment as well, because integrated is good. There's nothing wrong with having a really good powerful GPU in a laptop that doesn't use much power and doesn't require much in the way of space or cooling, because a lot of people like the really portable form factor of some of these thin and light laptops. But what's your thoughts of running do you think that in comparison to running a tablet and or running, is it worth the money to spend $1,000-$1,500 on a laptop for school, compared to running something a lot cheaper that might get the job done? Do you think having something that's in that sort of segment, do you think it's a worthwhile upgrade now to sort of look at the sort of the mid-range laptops compared to something that's the low end that, as I said, traditionally just got the job done, watch movies and all that sort of thing? Do you think people light gaming is now on the cards for that sort of thing, especially AMD obviously pushing that a lot heavier than Intel at the moment? But I don't know what you think.
I don't know. Purely for school and studying, I felt like a lot of people are going towards Chromebooks.
That's true. I mean,
so I'm not a big fan of Chromebooks.
No.
But
no.
How much would a Chromebook go for?
They're about you can spend up to $1,000 on one, but they're normally about $500-$600 bucks.
Insane.
Would get you would get you something that would just most people would get, because you're required
those things fall apart too.
Yeah, they probably do. Yeah, I wouldn't know. Well, I sort of do know a little bit, but they're not great.
I only know because my niece. This is what's insane to me. So I remember being back in high school or in intermediate, which is what she's in now, and everyone in her class has a Chromebook, and it's all linked up to everything they do at school
is linked to the Google.
Is on there, and that's insane to me, because I remember being back in school and all we had was you'd take a bag with your books in it, and you'd have a fucking pen, and anything you were learning you wrote down. What is the need for these Chromebooks? I suppose it makes it a lot easier and more manageable, I suppose. I don't know.
Because how much younger are you than me, or are we the same age?
I'm 24 in 13 days.
Right. Okay. So you would have been at high school about the time when they were introducing a lot of these programs for year 9 and year 10 at high, like all these computer programs and stuff that you could do as part of the curriculum? Like
No,
year 9, year 10?
I missed out on a lot of that. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a new thing. Like as soon as I left high school, it started. I remember.
Yeah.
See, I didn't go to the greatest high school. I went to Aranui High, so
Okay.
it's a bit of a ghetto one, if you would put it that way.
Yeah.
But I remember we had one English class that had a whole bunch of I think they were trying to implement it, and they had a whole bunch of tablets in there.
Yeah.
And within a week, half of them were stolen. Like,
Oh, jeez.
so I mean, like, they tried.
Yeah,
It didn't work out too well.
Yeah. Interesting.
But I remember them trying to integrate that. But I mean, most of my high school life. I mean, I stayed until my last year, and then my last year I left a couple months in because what I was doing for my last year, I'd gotten all my credits and everything that I needed. I just taken classes that I didn't give a shit about, and then I took this IT class because I wanted to really dive into my graphic design. So that's what I was going to do is go and study and shit. But the sad thing is that I went into that class and they were using terrible software to teach graphic design to kids and that. And I can't remember what it was called, but it was awful. And they were trying to teach people how to animate on that. And I had already gone through a whole animating stage where like that's something that I was interested in. And I was using, I think it was Flash Macromedia 8.
Oh, yep. Yeah, dope. Yep. That's it.
And they were using some weird ass, really bad software that didn't even have proper frames and everything. And I was talking to the teacher about it, and I was like, "Look, I already know how to do everything you're trying to teach people, and I want to do graphic design. Is this ever going to be in the curriculum?" And he goes, "Yeah, but let's see what you've done." And I showed him all my graphic design work and everything, and he goes, "You're well beyond what I can even teach you."
Wow.
He's like, he gave me the advice. I didn't really like the teacher, but he gave me some good advice, and he was just like, drop out.
Yeah.
He's like, go and study this at a proper university.
Yeah.
And I went to do that, and it was going to be free. And usually with the university, they don't take everybody in.
Correct.
Because there's a high, I don't know what you call it.
Sort of race of people coming in, and they have to only teach a certain amount of them. Yeah, no.
So I remember I went in and I showed them what I could do, and they were like, "Yeah, you can start next week."
Wow, it's crazy, dude. Yeah.
But yeah, I never actually ended up studying there because I was a little bit poor back then, and I needed a lot of money.
Yeah, as you do.
And as soon as I dropped out of high school, my parents stopped getting money for me for being studying in that.
Course,
so I needed to get a job, and I honestly didn't have time for it.
Yeah.
Which is real shitty because I kind of wish I got to stay there and do that. But I mean, hey, like over the years and that, I've basically taught myself a lot of things. I mean, like YouTube tutorials. I can name one person that is really great for anyone who wants to get into graphic design and that. CISO HQ on YouTube. Yeah. Best graphic design channel I've ever come across, and that's basically where I've taught myself everything. And I don't need to go to a fancy university to learn all this type of thing. Like this is the sort of thing you can learn on your own. Yeah. If you're smart enough to look at. And I suppose it's the exact same thing when it comes to learning about all the hardware that you're really into, and all. I'm sure this is all self-taught as well. Yeah, majority of it is, and like I suppose I sort of, since you covered a little bit of history of high schools and stuff like that, and I sort of started off with that too. I bought my laptop to take to high school actually because they figured out that my writing was so shit that typing out my schoolwork was a hell of a lot better of a system to actually get me to do my work, and they could freaking understand it. So did that, and then I sort of got my way through just sort of year 12, and then year 13 I sort of couldn't be bothered with shit. So and I did graduate, but I sort of didn't pass anything really. And so I went off to Polytech, and I did a 1 year I sort of thought, when I was going into these papers that I was doing, that
this was just a piece of paper to tell people that I know what I'm talking about, because I sort of knew, mostly what they were going to be teaching, other than the programming aspect of it, which I still fail miserably at to this day, and I don't even really attempt it anymore. But so I got through that. It was a 1-year diploma, and I got to the last paper, which was a networking paper, and it was the theory test through Cisco. And Cisco, they are renowned for really trying to, excuse my French a little bit, but fuck you up. They want to they want to purposely make things difficult, so you pick the wrong answer. And I failed one shot. I went with the lecturer, who was a really nice guy. I saw him actually this year, but I haven't sort of caught up with him again. But and we went through the answers. We went back, and they had different questions. So I was like, they had different answers, and they were again trying to fuck you up. So I failed that, and then they said, go to the level 3 paper. You'll blitz that. You've got to get 75%. Then we can take you into the degree. Because the mostly of the level 3 paper was programming, because it was like that really direct entry level way into the degree. If you sort of didn't do level 3 in high school, a lot of it's programming, and that's all they teach you in the degree is pretty much programming. I failed. Yeah. I didn't fail it, but I passed it, but I didn't get anywhere near the marks that I needed to get to actually get into the degree. And that's a shame, because, as I said, a lot of my knowledge has been self-taught. I know a lot of the hardware stuff, the practical aspects, and that sort of research and has been my own. And they don't teach you that anymore. A lot of the hardware stuff is how to interact with servers, and that's as far as you get, really. A lot of it's the software development, and I suck. I can't grab my brain around how to actually program a computer, and I still can't. And it's like, I don't want to spend $30,000 on something that, even if I got a job in like a computer shop, I'm not going to use 1% of it. Because it's like, but unfortunately, because we're a university city, and probably like most other places in New Zealand, a lot of them require a degree to work in even a computer shop. And it's like, that's beyond belief, really, how they've managed to say that that's an idea because they want you to know what you're talking about, but it's got nothing to do with the job. Like, I had interviews with 2 of the shops here, and they said, we're happy to take you on work experience because we can't trust what you've said with your knowledge and your experience that you've had over the last 10 years plus that you've had. But we still need that degree. We still need that, and it's like, that's just insane, absolutely insane. Like, I could go in there tomorrow, quite happily put the uniform on, and say I'm part of the team, like that. And it's like, but they still want that piece. It's just like, oh my god, like, I don't want to. I'm a bit sort of annoyed, to say the least, about it, and I suppose I won't go too far off track today, but sort of had a little bit of a rant about the job market and why I don't have one. But
that's the thing, though, bro. That's the thing over here. The education system is beyond fucked. I mean, like, you can, like, if you're trying to get into a job nowadays and it's more than just your pickpacker at a supermarket or something like that. The only thing that you can get into without a degree is usually like a entry-level trade. And the thing is that they're asking for this paperwork, like a piece of paper, like a degree, for things that, like you said, you don't need to do. Like, 1% of it you'll probably use, but if you already know that 1% plus some, what's the fucking point of the degree? Plus, like, how do they know that with this degree, this is what you've been taught?
Yeah.
How do they don't know any of the education that was put into the degree? Yeah. Absolutely. So why does it matter?
Absolutely. And I mean, like, I don't know about other fields. Like, obviously, if you're training to be a doctor, if you're training to be a teacher, like, my partner's not long graduated, and she's got a lot of the aspects you do need in your job, but I'm just finding that I'm being left behind with the hardware stuff because computers just get thrown in the bin now.
Yeah,
Right.
it all depends on the career
Absolutely.
trajectory and everything.
Yeah.
I suppose with a doctor and that, they know that the stuff that you've actually been taught is what you need to be taught.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
For
yeah,
sure. But yeah, in terms of, and so people don't fix computers anymore. So like,
they throw them out and build a new one.
They throw them out and build a new one. It's like, hell, I've got computers here from probably 25 years ago that still function.
I see your rigs, bro. I see your rigs.
Yeah, they're that one up there is there we go. That one I'm fixing. That one's gonna get built on stream if I hit 30 subs. And that one is that one's my server PC, which runs game servers and stuff. Anyone who hits me up about running a game server, let me know. I'm keen to sort of have everybody have access to that if they want to do it. So that's sort of a small portion of systems that I have lying around. Up on the shelf above me, there's a whole nother bloody series of stuff, parts and things. I've got the whole sort of back area there, sort of dedicated to that. But
nice.
Yeah. So sort of covered Intel graphics. The dedicated graphics is sort of part of that too, so we don't need to really talk about that too much. I haven't opened up all the stuff here. No. So we finished with Intel. I suppose we have really. I guess we can sort of finish. We sort of talk about news that have just come up to today, and that is actually it was last night. I sort of picked this topic out of the blue, really, but that was VIA. You probably haven't heard of VIA. Not many people have anymore. But it was one of the last actual CPU makers that have existed, for the long, they were around sort of pre-Intel and pre-AMD. And so, yeah, obviously ARM is the only other CPU manufacturer out there that does sort of high-performance chips. And VIA were quite known for their chipsets on motherboards. So like running like the RAM controllers and running the Ethernet controllers and and all that sort of thing. And they seem to be still going. They sort of, as I said, been going since 1999. I think with their new name, they were probably called something else before that. But they've been slowly selling their stuff off to Intel over this last sort of few years, and now they've sort of agreed to sell the last part of their business to Intel as of sort of last night, which is crazy because cool, awesome. Okay, yeah, sorry, someone in chat there. So yeah, they're selling for $125 million, which is really not a lot considering their IP and what they've been planning to do over the last few years with making a new architecture that's trying to compete with the mainstream market. But they haven't actually been able to put it into fruition. There's a bit of shade perhaps thrown that Intel might just be buying their staff and actually not worrying about the intellectual property that VIA have. So they're going to be basically employing the actual the people they're part of VIA to Intel. So that's kind of a bit shit. I hate when companies go out and buy people, gut them, and then throw out the bits they don't need. EA is a prime example of that, to be honest.
For sure.
And it's like, why, I don't know how they're allowed to do it.
They got money, man.
Oh, no, that's the problem. That's just...
They got money.
Far too much of it. And obviously no care in the world. But we can talk a little bit about games later on if you've got some gaming news, because I don't really follow gaming stuff that often. But, okay, so we've got two more Intel topics to talk about. This one's the more exciting stuff. I haven't really looked into this until yesterday. But this is 12th gen. This is just... the benchmarks have just come out for 12th gen. Oh, wow. I'll open that link up just now. Control link, control. So this is what I was talking about earlier with the big ground up redesign that Intel have actually done over this last few years, which is crazy because, as I said, they've been negligent for so long, and they've not had any care in the world for so long that they've finally been able to say that they've got a new architecture. And it's kind of funny what they've done, because if you've ever been following mobile tech over this last sort of, I don't know, even 10 years plus now, they've had this technology called Big Little. And, you know, all modern phone chipsets have this technology where they've got normally about four power efficient cores, and maybe 4 plus, maybe even 8 now, I think in some instances, high performance cores. And what they've been able to achieve is, I mean, ARM has been a lot better with this because they've been able to, the more simplistic programming language that phone uses, they've been able to schedule tasks to run specifically on the power saving cores and run games and stuff that require the performance cores to use them instead. So you can run things in the background whilst you're actually running your games or running your streams on your phone, as some people do, and that won't be interrupting the stuff that runs in your background. So Intel have sort of taken that a little bit on board with the 12th gen, and actually produced a Big Little TechSpot have done a really in-depth review of 12th gen. Obviously you are going to need a new motherboard because Intel has historically said that you can't run new CPUs on previous gen motherboards and vice versa. I don't know why they haven't made them compatible, but hey, that's just what that is. And so these ones don't have RSXE built in, but they've got 8 performance. This is the i7 12700K, which is sort of the not quite, obviously the i7 isn't the flagship, the i9 normally is nowadays, and they've got basically they've got hyper-threading on the performance cores, but they don't have hyper-threading on the power efficient cores. And obviously this has got DDR5 support, the first CPUs to do it, which, as you see in the reviews, they don't actually, the benefit for the higher speed RAM hasn't really been worthwhile for them to go to DDR5 on this particular architecture.
Yeah.
The base frequency obviously is important, 3.4 gigahertz on the performance cores, 2.4 on the E cores, up to 5.2, which is traditionally where Intel has gone, 5 gigahertz plus on the boost, 30 megabytes of cache, which is quite high, not nearly as high as AMD, but they've got a particular system that they've been able to do. But the funny thing is about the power targets is Intel have had a bit of a meme about being like a furnace, running really hot, running really loud, and really using a lot of power at the same time. And obviously 250 watts was required for the 11th gen CPUs to run at their full turbo on all cores, and now they've reduced that, obviously running 10 nanometer now. 190 watts is required, which is well, actually that's the 12th gen, that's the i7 to the i9, sorry. So 250 watts for the 12th gen, which is the full, the i9, which is the full fat chip, and 190 watts for the i7, which has got 4 less cores. So that's a huge power savings if you're obviously looking at cooling your CPU at any rate, because apparently I've heard reviews that they throttle on a 360 all-in-one liquid cooler, which is absolutely mental, because nothing has ever gone quite so far before. 240, 280 is where you'd recommend for a lot of mainstream CPUs, but a 360, which is 320mm fan strapped to a radiator with a water pump flowing around your system, apparently they throttle, which means they reduce their performance because they get too hot. But because of their scheduling, Windows 11 is required for 12th gen, because Windows 10 doesn't quite run as well on there. But what a bloodbath! I'm just scrolling down to the application results right now. What an absolute bloodbath compared to AMD. This is multi-threading, where AMD's traditionally done really well. in Cinebench, and we've got probably about a 30%, almost 30% uplift in performance with the i9 compared to the 5900X. I mean, that's not compared to the 5950X. Maybe there might be a little bit of a smaller gap. But they, which is the 16 core versus the 12 core. But holy crap! Like even against the i7, the 12700K is still about 20%, about 10% quicker than the 12 core, even though it's got about, which is like crazy considering the i7 is actually cheaper than the 5900X, which is obviously, considering for a new architecture, that is really, really quite amazing, because obviously Intel is nowhere near sort of competed on price as well compared to AMD. But even in single core performance, we're looking at probably about 25%, about 20% better single core wise, which games still really like one strong core compared to multi cores even now because of Intel's negligence on the market. But we're looking at about 20% there stronger on single core compared to the 5th gen, well, Zen 3 that's currently out there. A 23% advantage per core. In compression, we're looking at a lot, and AMD is still doing a lot better, but decompression, we're still a lot closer compared to AMD. So if you're compressing or decompressing files, but Corona benchmark is about 10% quicker through a CPU, which is a 3D modeling benchmark, how long it takes to render a particular scene. We're looking at about 5 seconds quicker on that. And Premiere Pro blowing anything out of the water from AMD considerably. And we'll see if we can find some games. So they have their gaming benchmarks here. They probably do. Yeah, the system power consumption way up on the 12900K compared to AMD. Almost 120 watts difference. Because that's the power of the 7nm CPUs compared to Intel. So here's F1 2021 running on the 6900 XT, which is AMD's highest end GPU. It seems to be running still a little bit better on AMD, even though the average FPS is higher on Intel compared to the 5900X. We're still looking about 10 FPS at its but 389 versus 408. You're not going to freaking know the difference in performance there. If you're running a really high-end monitor, you might, but Rainbow Six Siege, you're looking at a pretty even number, not too far different there, and Borderlands 3, pretty much even. I think there might be an in-game engine cap at 200 FPS by the looks of it. Watch Dogs Legion, pretty much the same, not really too different there, actually almost exactly the same. Guardians of the Galaxy, the same. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, pretty much the same. So basically, people always go on about Intel and their gaming prowess, but essentially they've got the same performance there. In multi-threading tasks, Intel does seem to be a lot better now. So if you're doing production work, if you're doing streaming, if you're doing video rendering and stuff like that, Intel will be on top. But in terms of gaming, if you're doing gaming benchmarks, just gaming, you're pretty hard pressed to choose between the i9 12900K and the 5900X. They pity they didn't have the 5950X in there, because it would have been interesting to see what the 16 core was able to do against the 24 thread of the 12900K. But here's another bit of a bloodbath. Apparently, if we're going to go to the Intel Core i5 12600K, which is the mid-range offering, oh my god, I'm messing up scenes here a little bit. This is the one I had up just not long ago. This is meant to be competing against the 5600X, which is the 6-core Ryzen CPU, and this one has, how many cores does this thing have? I should know this, but I haven't really looked into it. Pro streamer right here. So the 12600K has 10 physical cores in 16 threads. So it is a little bit more compatible with the 5800X in performance compared to the 5600X, but as it obviously supports TDR5 and DDR4, and 20 megabytes of cache, and integrated graphics on that. Big thing about 12th gen is they support PCIe 5.0. There's nothing out there that supports PCIe 5.0, so like it's not exactly relevant right now. But when it does become relevant, I suppose you can pick up a 12th gen CPU. 4.0 is absolutely fine for the majority of cases, and it is cheaper than the 5800X by about $160 US, which is quite considerable considering again that it is actually a new architecture from Intel. But looking at Cinebench here, which is what we talked about in the previous post, we're looking at about a 20% increase in single core performance and about a 5% increase in multi-core performance compared to the 5800X, which is again $160 more expensive than the 12600K, which is absolutely insane. We're looking at we've got more benchmarks here, do we? Throw some nails. Here we go. Is it going to load? Geekbench, obviously quite considerably better there. I was looking at CPU-Z, quite similar. Actually, the 5800X isn't there. Oh, that's interesting. Are we going to look at where's Time Spy? Is it at the bottom? Nope, Time Spy is not there. That's a good. There's Time Spy. So against the 5950X, which is probably not exactly equivalent, the 12600K beats the 5950X, which is the 16-core chip from AMD, by about, again, that sort of 5%, 10%, compared to the 16-core, and this is only a 10-core chip. So obviously they've really done a lot of work there, and against the 5600X, which is at sort of price parity, which is the 6-core, it's about 50% better. In Time Spy, which is a 3D Mark benchmark that measures this particular CPU bench is how much quicker it is in physics compared to the other engines, and having that much quicker that's crazy. It's a real bloodbath compared to AMD on the 12th gen, and I think realistically they're rated at 4.5 out of 5, which is absolutely fair. If you don't want to spend more than $300, if you plan to stream, don't buy the 12600K, and you're looking for really strong multi-core workloads, probably not the best CPU to buy. But if you're buying an i5, which this is, you're not generally doing a lot of, historically though, the i5 has been the mid-range offering, and it still is quite the mid-range offering, but you know, they've really shown it to AMD in the multi-core tests this time around compared to Intel, and it's like, you know, they are available here now. You can buy them, and I don't know what they're worth. Maybe I'll do some quick googling as we speak. What is 12th gen worth? Intel i5 12600K. What else? What have we got here? 12th gen 12600K. Man, my googling. Alright, we've got NZ.
You found it?
I'm still googling. Oh, you're looking still? No, I found it. So for a 12600K, looking at $520, and we're looking for a 5800X. Or from Computer Lounge, I do like Computer Lounge. There's $750 for a 5800X. So
the thing is, when people are buying PC parts and everything, they shouldn't be like. I know people have to budget in that, but I feel like if you want something that works for what you want to do, don't go cheap.
No,
like, take that extra few weeks, like saving in that.
Yeah,
You kind of have to.
Yeah, and I know I know, because I sort of, when I had my full-time job last year, I budgeted for my car, I budgeted for my PC upgrade, and I budgeted for my holidays. So I knew what I could spend, and I sort of had to fit into that. But I think a lot of people who want to do this take PCs seriously. Cost generally isn't much of an object, but it is to some people who say, I've only got $2,000, and this is sort of what I have to to do with $2,000.
All depends on everyone's circumstances.
Absolutely, yeah. And I suppose if you're trying to get your best bang for buck, then, you know, I think Intel might actually be the way to go if you're interested in using Windows 11. Obviously, if you're running Windows 10 right now, you might have to bite the bullet and upgrade for free. I haven't used Windows 11 yet. I don't really want to, because it's bugs and all that bullshit.
I've never really enjoyed when they've updated the software to a new gen. I still remember being, I think it was like Windows 7, and then I could be wrong here. I think Windows 7 might have come out after Vista.
That's correct.
Right.
Yep, 100%. Yep.
Yeah, but I remember being on something before Vista, and I ended up upgrading to the software to Vista, and I was like, what the fuck is this? This is just beyond garbage. My opinion.
XP came out before Vista.
Yeah, it would have been XP that I was
XP,
on then.
Yeah.
I mean, that is some old software, but I mean,
I loved XP.
Back in the day, it was great.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed when Windows 7 came out.
Yeah, I love Windows 7. Yeah, for sure.
Windows 10, I mean, that's what I'm running right now. It's good.
Yeah.
But I still remember Windows 7 just being much more convenient.
Yep, it was for sure. And I was very sad to have finally upgraded the last PC that I have in the house to Windows 10, because I was like, if it's online, you probably want the security updates, and I was like, I've just got to do 10. You know what I mean?
Unfortunately, you're kind of forced into upgrading.
Yeah,
at some point.
Yeah, like I ran when I was at Polytech, we got free Windows licenses. And I was running Windows 8.1 on my main desktop for a good few years before I upgraded to 10. Because I was like, I knew Windows 8.1 was relatively bug-free. I didn't like the interface too much. That whole, what the frick did they call it? That modern UI bullshit was just like, I don't even know what the hell they were on.
I don't know.
But I didn't mind it because I knew that I had a system that I knew wasn't going to be full of bugs and problems. But then I upgraded to 10, and it's been a relatively smooth transition since then. I've had no problems with it. But Metro UI, that's the one. Yeah, it was bullshit. I hated that. But I knew, as I said, it was bug free, and that was the main sort of sticking point for me, that I had to put up with the bullshit Windows 8, which it ran all right. And don't get me wrong, but
yeah, I remember that too. That was not fun.
No, I mean the original Windows 8, you couldn't even access. Didn't even have a start button. You had to use that.
Didn't they have to remake it, and then it came out like Windows 8.5 or something like
8.1.
that? Or
yeah, they
8.1.
8.1 had a start. You could actually access the start menu on 8.1.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hated Windows 8 because I remember. This was my second laptop. I had Windows 7 on one of my laptops, and then the second laptop that I bought, and even though we spoke about not buying laptops, but this was a time where I thought laptops were great.
Yeah.
I remember, so what happened to my first laptop, I had it plugged in, and I basically used it as if it was a PC. I had monitors, and I used to just close it and have it connected through an HDMI. And my power, my charging cable, the power supply, actually fried itself and almost started a fucking fire in my house.
Okay.
So luckily I had insurance on it. So I went and got a new one, and then it came with Windows 8, and I was like, why? Why is this a thing?
Oh no.
So thank God for Windows 8.1, but I mean, not a good software. I'm curious as to what your thoughts are with the new look of Windows 11. I remember when they first released the trailer for it and just showing off the way it looks and everything. To me, what I remember, it's been a while since I've watched that trailer, but I remember it just it reminded me of Macs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know what I think of it. I'm not looking forward to the day where we're kind of forced to upgrade to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
But we'll see.
I quite like the... If it's not... I don't like the flat look. I quite liked the animated look and the more cartoony look of Windows 7. It sort of looked different, but now everything's just flat. And I kind of wish they'd bring back some of that more 3D elements of the older operating systems. I think Vista actually looked nice.
It just didn't run well.
It ran like shit. However, funny story, I think I spoke about this last week on the podcast, or at some point. I had no issues with Vista. Because we bought a real belt-on-the-barrel HP, it wasn't a laptop, it was a desktop, from the shop, and it was running Windows Vista. And we had no problems with it. It didn't bug out, it didn't have any incompatibilities with things. It was almost like it was a pre-packaged system that was just designed to work with Vista. And it was but that was my experience, and I think a lot of people's was quite different. And I know that it ran like shit. I kind of want to rebuild a machine to run Vista on to see whether it was as shit as I remember it, or as shit as other people remember it. But I kind of want to get a hold of Vista again and see what it's like. But
the one good thing about Vista though, and I got to appreciate this, is that I think without Vista we probably wouldn't have had as good of a Windows 7.
I think people would not have looked forward to 7 as much if Vista ran as well as it could have.
Yeah. And I think Windows 7 was great, but I think this thought just came into my head. Maybe Windows 7 wasn't as great as we thought because we were so used to Vista.
Yeah, perhaps. No,
it was such an upgrade.
I even go back to I had that server PC behind me actually was running Windows 7 for a while, and I just went back to it just even to use as a general desktop because I just missed running 7. It was just a really nice, you didn't have to worry about all the crap, there was no extra bits that you didn't need, and it was just it just ran the way you kind of things you would expect to run. And you go back to 10, it's just why is this all this extra bullshit here that's just I'm not going to even use, and you can't even turn it off. And it's the simpler times, I guess. And I guess maybe a more nostalgic trip as well. Maybe that's sort of what's fueling that experience about Windows 7 being so good. But
it's the same with video games.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's sort of why I've been doing what I've been doing with my Friday live streams, is just going back and playing older games and enjoying them for what they were worth. Yeah, absolutely. But speaking of games and video cards and things like that, Intel is making a GPU, my friends. This is the last topic we have before we're talking about a little bit of an opinion piece, and then we can open up the floor to chat. Sorry you've been very patient, but we will get to you very, very shortly. I did make a bit of a statement at the start there. The XE. Yes, the X. We've talked about the Iris XE, which was the integrated graphics, but this is actually the Alchemist GPU that they're actually making to compete with AMD and Intel, Nvidia. God, AMD and Intel. What the hell am I on? So what do we got here? The Alchemist. This is we don't have a link. Okay, I had a link somewhere. Okay, Intel Alchemist. I'll find a link while I'm waiting. Yeah, that should work. Is it no, that's not the post I had. I had a really good post. I think it was by. Oh no, this will do the trick. Yep. I'll copy that in chat. Control V. There you go. And this is what's going to come out next year for Intel, and it's based off the Iris Xe. But funny story about this, really, really funny story. A bit of, I guess you can say, I'm a bit sad, a little bit, because the guy who headed the Intel GPU division used to head the AMD GPU division, and he left the Radeon Technologies group back in 2019, I believe. He went on a sabbatical and he came back to work for Intel, and I was like, wow, really? Like, that was quite a shock, to be honest. Raja Koduri, he architected Vega, he architected Polaris, and I think he did sort of GCN a little bit in the background as well, of the earlier GCN cards. And he sort of brought AMD back onto the map for the most part. But I think what the problem was is the fact that Lisa Su, who's the CEO of AMD, sort of wasn't happy with Raj's sort of leadership style. I think he wanted to do a little bit more for AMD than what he was able to achieve, and so maybe that's sort of why he left. It sounds like there was a little bit of a power struggle there a little bit. And so he went to work for Intel. Intel hired a lot of people from AMD as well who left with Raja to work on this architecture. Obviously there is, what the frick's his name? Brian Keller. He worked on AMD as well for a long time. He sort of helped architect this as well. And this is sort of coming out next year. It's going to be a huge, all eyes are on Intel now for seeing whether they can bring some competition to this. Whether this is going to work out, we don't know. The target is going to be supposedly the RTX 3070 for the high end Arc, as the Arc Alchemist, DG2. That's for the big one, and it's going to be built on the 6nm process from TSMC, which is kind of funny because so that's like a slightly more revised version of the 7nm node that AMD has been using up until now. But it's going to be compatible with a lot of open source technologies like FreeSync, like DX12 Ultimate, and also AMD's version of ray tracing. I think it's going to be running on the Intel GPUs that are coming out. So it sort of talks a little bit about the architecture here, how it compares to the particular cores that are, AMD and NVIDIA cores that are out there at the moment. So looking at approximately 4,096 cores on the 512 EUs. So EUs we talked about with the Iris graphics having about 80. So this is about 4 times as powerful, probably over 4 times as powerful as the Iris Xe cards that are in laptops at the moment. So that, I guess if that's sort of an indication of performance, we're looking certainly at about an RTX 3070. DX12 Ultimate, we've got FreeSync support there as well, and but it obviously is revised because of the upgrade in the process node, and obviously wanting to be a bit more of a gaming optimized GPU rather than a efficiency optimized GPU. So we're looking at GDDR6 on this, no HBM2. Apparently we're looking at about 225 watts to 275 watts as a rumoured power consumption, which is about on par with the 3070. The big drawback is what they've said here is the driver software is going to be the biggest hurdle that they're going to be facing on launch, because a lot of people rate GPU experiences based on their drivers, and that's what I think people have been looking down on AMD for a long time, is because the AMD drivers have just historically been crap. That's not entirely true. I can sort of debate that a little bit, but people have had bad experience with AMD drivers, and and if Intel is sort of their first real attempt at a gaming GPU, it's like, is the driver support going to be there from day one? Obviously Intel's a lot bigger of a company than Intel. No, oh my god, AMD's a lot smaller of a company than Intel, so you're expecting that maybe they'll put a lot more effort and support into the software side of things before release compared to AMD, because of their time and their money and their amount of people who work there is a lot less than what Intel has. But it's looking really, really good. I was a little bit conflicted because I was like, do I want to support Intel making graphics cards? But then I looked at the bigger picture, because I'm not really a big fan of Intel. I don't know if you can tell by by the way I've been talking about things, but and then I looked at the bigger picture. I like Nvidia less than I like Intel, and if they can take the game to Nvidia, Intel can. They can go, right, we're coming here to take you on and compete with you guys, and actually really sort of force you to change your pricing and all that sort of thing. Then I think that's a win. I think that's because prices of GPUs are just going to go up. And if there's nothing, NVIDIA is essentially unchallenged. People believe that. Whether that's true, again, I can debate that till the cows come home. They are challenged in the high end. But realistically speaking, people don't believe that. So it's like, we need another competitor to say that, yes, we are serious about the high end, about taking the crown from NVIDIA with the highest performing card that you can get, and be cheaper. If they can make it cheaper than NVIDIA can, then we're looking at a really big upset coming probably before April next year, which is pretty crazy if you ask me. That we're looking at something so big so quick, because obviously the iOS XE was a teaser. The dedicated GPU and the integrated GPU that you see in their 11th gen parts was a bit of a teaser about what's to come. And when they announced that they're actually going to do this for real, it was a pretty big shock to the system, because I wasn't sure. I was like, oh god, do I buy an Intel GPU? I'm not even sure if I want to do that. But now looking at it, if they're going to be cheaper, they're going to support what you want to support, and they've got the performance targets worked out, then actually I might go ahead and buy one for my next one. I don't know. What are your what are your thoughts? About the monopoly, the duopoly, the pricing of GPUs? What do you think of competition? Is there no competition? Do people just buy NVIDIA anyway? I don't know. I'm sort of here to sort of to sort of pick your brain.
I guess we'll just see, because I feel like the most talk about graphics card, I mean, like, for the people who are like really into it and like really into this topic and that, they'll definitely look around and see what's there to gain from each. But when it comes to the majority, everyone goes for like the new GTX or whatever. So that, it's always, I feel like it's always going to be NVIDIA. It's kind of the same when you processors and everything or whatnot. Every different company has their own, I don't know, like most people would, like, if you're looking for like a processor, you mainly go for like Intel, right? So I mean, like, I feel like majority of people, when you look at the bigger picture of everything, most people are gonna always be like, yeah, NVIDIA is the way to go, because they've been doing so well for so many years that they're trusted at this point. I don't know if people are gonna look at Intel's one and go, yeah, it'll be good, or else they wouldn't sell it. But how good will it be in the long run?
Yeah. When
you can look at NVIDIA graphics cards and whatnot, and just you just know it's gonna be a decent source for what you want. It's going to last because it's been trusted for over years, and everyone has had one at this point. Yeah. Everyone's gone to NVIDIA for that at this point. So changing it's either you're risking your money or... Well, yeah, I mean, it is a risk, isn't it?
I guess, I think people are getting sick and tired of NVIDIA in a way, though. Like, because the price jump between the RTX 2000 to 3000 was massive.
Oh yeah, they're very pricey, very expensive. And
it's like there's no supply, and it's like, I think Intel is going to try come in and combat that.
If they can take the prices down, that's definitely a win.
I think they couldn't make it expensive, especially if it's their first shot, their first real shot at this.
If it's cheap and it does really well, I see the price range on everything going down.
And that's a big win.
Honestly.
Because,
Yeah.
like, obviously, with the inflation that's been going on with GPU pricing over this last couple of years, you know, you can't even buy things at the recommended price. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
And if Intel can say, yes, we're going to make sure that this gets to you at the price that we set it at, then I think people are going to be like, well, I've been holding out for an RTX 3070, but if Intel can make a cheaper one, and I can get it tomorrow, then it's like, you know, I don't think people are going to want to look elsewhere.
I feel like a lot of people though, like I don't know what kind of audience this would apply to, but I feel like a lot of people will look at the price and have a lot of second thoughts on it. Because, I mean, if you're going for an NVIDIA, it's so expensive and you know it's trusted. You know the money you're putting towards it is worth it in a way. And Intel comes out with something a lot cheaper that says that it can do the same thing but better. You go, well, why is it so cheap?
I don't think. I mean, I don't think they'll make it that much cheaper. Obviously, they want to price it to compete, but they wouldn't be like, "Oh, I'm going to get an RTX 3070 for like $500." That's just not happening tomorrow. But
fuck no.
If they can make it for like $1,000, maybe $1,200 at the most, which is a few $100 cheaper than you can get a 3070 for, then I think people will be like, "Well, I've been holding out because I can't actually get one because they're not in stock." Then it's like, how are they going to, you know, are they going to actually look elsewhere if the performance is there? We're going to have to wait for reviews. Essentially, that's what I always recommend for people, is actually to look at reviews, form your own opinion, and actually then go out and make your decision. Because people just, I think people are quite a lot of people are blind. And like people go, oh yeah, because as you said, because Nvidia's been trusted, it's been out there so long, and it just works. You know, I actually, is that my sound alert? I don't have sound alerts on right now, but I've got a just works thing from Nvidia. It's kind of hilarious, because it just works. Then people just go and do it. But if you can't get one, and if it doesn't, if then people are going to be like, okay, well, let's do something else.
The other thing to think of is what happens to the market. So, like, if it does well, it does great for the market for the buyers' standpoint. Yeah. Because I feel like Nvidia will lower their prices or whatnot. But what happens to the markets if it does terribly?
Well, that's the point. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, because obviously Intel are going out on a limb, aren't they, really? Because they've obviously got enough to be able to afford to put the R&D, put the team together, put the manufacturing together, to be able to actually put this into practice. And obviously they've just thought, well, okay, we'll see how this goes. But if they're serious about it, then yes, it's certainly a concern that, well, if it's going to be that poor, then it's like, well, what do you do about that? You know, where do they go from there? And we've got an interesting thing in chat. You're saying, especially since two of them have been involved in the CPU market, it's like, because I know with AMD and their smart access memory, that was only available on AMD CPUs paired with an AMD GPU. They've got their proprietary technology that allows your CPU to access VRAM directly, instead of going through the RAM and then off the storage and then to the GPU itself. You can actually, the CPU can just, and I think they opened up that technology to NVIDIA later on, and that became an open source technology. Will Intel have its own proprietary tech with their GPUs? You know, like, will they say, oh, it works best if you buy a 12th gen CPU? It's like, are they going to do that? They probably will. In some way, I'm not sure exactly how they're going to do that, but it just sort of, it seems curious that maybe they won't. It'd be interesting to see what happens with their software packages that they come out with, which they said is going to be quite a big hurdle for them to get right off the bat, because they're pretty good at the hardware aspect, and you know, but whether they can get the software right, which is again why AMD has been failing a lot in a lot in the market because the driver packages have been woeful. Well, a lot of people believe that the driver packages are woeful. Again, I can debate that. I'm not going to do that today because I could be here till the cows come home. But it's sort of just something that's certainly going to be on people's minds when these things launch. It's like, are they going to work? Are they going to actually just go out of the box? You can plug them in, and it's just going to be a reasonably seamless experience. And that's that really. Yeah, that's the sort of so. Any sort of closing thoughts before we move on to the opinion pieces? We can pick one of them. If you wanted to talk about gaming, if you just want to talk about extreme overclocking, if we just want to talk about 4K, we can do that, and then we can move on to the chat if you like. Yeah, but any sort of closing thoughts on Intel over the last couple of years and what they're going to be doing next year before we move on?
My last thought would probably, well, I don't know if this is an opinion or whatnot, but I feel like with Intel doing with what they're doing, I feel like if they're going to bring something out, I feel like it will be a good thing, because I feel like they wouldn't bring out something that shits the bed day one simply because of their reputation. Yeah. I mean, they don't want to ruin that. I mean, talking about gaming, you look at CD Projekt Red.
Yeah.
They were held to such a high standard once they brought out The Witcher 3, right? And everything they've done before that, brilliant.
Yeah.
Then Cyberpunk drops.
Yeah.
The fuck happened?
Yeah.
Like, everyone's looking at them like, what the fuck?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Intel does not want that.
No, they don't. And because of, as I said, because their CPU division's been held to such a high standard for a long time, yeah, they wouldn't want their GPU division to just steamroll.
Yeah, they want to be on top of the market.
They do, absolutely, and that's sort
if it takes them a few extra years to suss something out that's perfect, then I guess that's what's going to happen. Like we'll just see.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And I know that the team they've got together is pretty good, but again, whether it actually is going to pan out, we have to wait. But I think CES will probably be the D-Day, which will be early Jan of 2022. That will probably be when we'll find out a hell of a lot more news. And we'll have to just have to play it by ear until then, for sure.
The other thing is that Nvidia has so much experience in this.
Yep, absolutely.
Intel's just putting their foot in the water.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's another thing. So they really got to knock it out of the park if they're going to do something with it.
Yeah.
So like, if they're looking at future builds or whatnot, like, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough for them. It's gonna be a bloodbath one way or another. You know, either they're gonna do well, Nvidia's just gonna frickin' throw them out of the park and be like, what are you doing? Or Intel's like, actually, you know what? We can bring this and it's gonna work because it does work and we can prove that it works. And people will be like, well, there might be a little bit of a mass exodus. So. But we just don't know, and it's going to be. I'm very, very curious to see what comes out in the next few months, for sure, in regards to news, because we've got there's no firm evidence yet, and until we have it, then we don't know. So anyway, anything out of those 3 topics there that I just sort of talked about that you sort of want to bring up? For a little bit.
Let's go gaming, man.
We'll talk about gaming. You bring this to me, man. You bring this to me.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of new stuff coming out.
Yeah.
A lot of really good things. They're bringing back Knights of the Old Republic. It's a remaster that looks incredible. I don't know if you've ever played the original. I recommend it.
Yeah, I think I've been told to play it, and I think I might have it on Steam. But I've heard that it's like. That's the MMO.
One of the greatest. Not the MMO. It's
an FPS, is it? Just like a.
No. It's just like, think of The Witcher, but Star Wars.
Oh, okay. Yep. So it's like an RPG.
Actually, more so, think of Mass Effect. It's made by the same people as Mass Effect. It was what they made before they really got their foot in the water. So that's what really pushed them to become their own company is BioWare.
Right. Yeah.
So when they made that, man. Whew.
Yeah. I've heard good things.
They went
Yeah.
through the roof, man, and then they came out with Mass Effect, incredible.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's going to be another Mass Effect coming in the future, because the last one, I haven't played it, but I heard is a flop.
Okay.
But there's a lot of new RPGs coming out, man. I don't know if you're a big RPG guy, or you mainly play racing games, right?
Yeah, like I guess like I sort of skipped a lot of that, and a lot of people, if you want to, my racing Let's Play is finishing up. So if you want to actually vote on the type of game that I see play for my next Let's Play series, then feel free to go vote on that. But yeah, I've done a little bit. Like I did Gears of War. I played a bit of Halo
Those
in
are
my
good
time.
games, yeah.
And I've played I've played a lot of COD and Battlefield actually.
New COD came out. I've got mixed opinions on the new Call of Duty.
Yeah, I saw you stream it yesterday actually.
Yeah.
I've never been a COD fan.
See, I used to play it competitively.
Right.
I were back in the day. I was one of the top teams in New Zealand.
Hang on a sec. I'll be back.
And
I'll be back.
all right.
Live scene. Are you still there? Did I mute you? No, I didn't mute you,
Yeah,
did I?
I'm here.
No. Okay, cool. Oh no, I just had to be away for a sec. But yeah, no,
That's right.
I'd never really been a COD fan, and I always just play a lot more Battlefield because I like the vehicles in it.
Oh, yeah,
And-
Battlefield's nice.
Yeah.
Favorite Battlefield? Curious.
Sorry, what was that?
What's your favorite Battlefield? I'm curious.
Oh, 4.
4?
Yep, 4.
Really?
Yep. Yep.
Damn.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I mean, it's a good one, but damn, Bad Company 2, bro.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Oh.
I did play that. Yeah, meh.
I honestly preferred Battlefield 3 over 4.
Yeah,
I don't know.
a lot of people said that, and I played a lot of 3 before I played 4, and I guess for me, like there's some parts of 4 that I just prefer better than 3, but I can't remember exactly because I haven't played them both for quite some time, and there's still quite a large community of people who still play 4. 3's a bit dead online, unfortunately, nowadays.
Yeah. 4. I think 4 has a bigger community now than it ever has.
Yeah.
To be honest.
I said I'm not a big fan of the that map that they keep spamming, like that train. I forgot the name of the map.
Is it Operation Metro?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
I loved that map.
Oh
man.
no, people just like it's just a grenade fest. Like they just sort of go up the stairs and they just start hiffing them, and it's like, oh dude, like I just want to fire my gun, but they don't get the opportunity. It's just I know people. That's a really probably competitive map. And
What's your thoughts on the new one coming out,
I
2042? I think it is.
2042, yeah. I mean, I saw someone stream it, and it looks really good. Like the beta, I haven't seen gameplay of.
Yeah, I've had a few mates who played the beta. They thought it was pretty good. The thing what it reminds me of, so it's taking a futuristic stand.
Correct.
Which I think is a good thing because they haven't done that.
Well, they had
fucking
20.
WoW before.
They had 2042, like the old.
I think it was like
2042.
2142 or something like
2142.
that.
Yeah. That was kind
They
of wacky, actually. It was cool.
Yeah, they did that, and it was a bit of a flop.
Oh, yeah, kind of.
I got into Battlefield after that.
Right,
I've just heard it was a flop.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at this new one, and I like the fact that they're going into the future a little bit, and it kind of reminds me of. I know you said you didn't really like Call of Duty that much, but when they brought out Black Ops 2,
right, yeah, and
one of the biggest Call of Duties of all time,
yeah,
and it didn't go futuristic. It just went like 20 years, like 20 years in the future, and it blew up. Like it did. It had
really
such a nice feel. The guns were amazing. The maps were amazing. The environment was amazing. That's the kind of vibe I'm getting from 2042.
Yeah, because I think people are getting sick of playing World War II games, right? Or being in the current sphere, like Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 are kind of current games, and people are kind of probably like, nah, I want to see something different. And I suppose COD is just famous for recycling shit, and it's like, like it just. you just sort of get into the same vibe, and it's like, oh, I'm spending $120 on the same game I bought last year, and it's like, and it's like, but so seeing something refreshing that EA is actually doing is I'm kind of keen to try it if I eventually do get a hold of it. Is it on EA Play? Will it be coming to EA Play? Because if it's on EA Play,
I believe so. It's not on Blizzard, is it?
Oh no, Battlefield might be on Blizzard. No, that's freaking.
That is Call of Duty.
That's COD, yeah.
Okay.
But if it's on EA Play, then it'll be coming to Game Pass, and that means I will probably give it a go at least anyway.
Yeah.
Because I do if I'm into like an FPS sort of game, that's sort of the type that I would normally go to. I have been getting into Splitgate a little bit.
Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed Splitgate, but a lot of people have a lot of things to say about it. Like it's a wannabe Halo, and
yeah.
But it was like Halo. It has the same type of movement and guns and everything in it. But it actually took the Black Ops 3 engine
really?
For the movement.
Okay.
So it's got like the boost packs, and then the gunfights are the same as Halo, and then they added Portal into the mix.
Yeah.
I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I thought it was really quite refreshing because I have a hate for free to play games. I just really have a gripe about the competitive nature of them and how they've evolved into something you can't really enjoy unless you put real hardcore hours into actually getting good at playing these games.
Of course.
And it's like, so for me to try Splitgate was quite going out on a whim and saying, oh frick, okay, this looks fun, and I've enjoyed it because I enjoyed Halo back when I was a kid. I was playing on friends' Xboxes back then, and and it's like seeing it nowadays and having that Portal aspect into the mix. Like I normally get ragey at Battlefield because I want to get good at Battlefield. Like I always had that dream of like, I actually want to be able to win some games and shit. But like, so I used to rage at that game a little bit because it was just like, oh, I'm no good and I'll never get good, blah blah blah. But actually playing Splitgate, I don't really rage at it because I just enjoy it, and I think that's kind of because it's that nostalgic feeling of like, playing Halo when I was about 10 years old type of thing. And it's cool. Like, if I can do that, then I'll go back and play it because that's the sort of experience I'm looking for. I'm not looking for like a real hardcore time. I'm looking for something I can just pick up and play if I'm not in the mood for playing a racing game, because like obviously that's my go-to genre, and I want to get good at racing games because I'm good at racing games. But if it's something elsewhere, like I just want to pick up a gun and shoot someone, I don't want to be like, oh, I'm dying every 5 seconds because I'm too shit at this game and everyone else is so much better at this game, or it's full of hackers, or whatever. I just actually want to go and enjoy it and actually just, have it, I suppose you want to call it stress relief in a way.
I feel like that's another reason why people don't like Call of Duty. Especially with this new one, the time to kill is like 3 bullets. And the fire rate of most guns are very fast.
Yep.
And a lot of people come in to try and just casually play and have a bit of fun.
Yep.
And especially day one, a lot of people are on there who have played Call of Duty since COD 4.
Yep.
And are extremely good at the game and are just destroying. And new people come in and they get shit on.
Yeah.
And they're like, this game fucking sucks.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And like I understand a lot of people's point of view for that, but like for me, I am a bit of a sweat when it comes to it. So I've always enjoyed Call of Duty. Like I was going to say before, I actually used to play Call of Duty competitively.
Right.
Back before Black Ops 2 actually. I did it a little bit in Black Ops 1. I didn't really play MW3 that much. I didn't exactly enjoy that. But when Black Ops 2 came out, I really dived into it and I got really fucking good.
Yeah.
I got a team together. We played in Advanced Warfare and Ghosts. As like the top 3 teams in New Zealand for a while.
Wow. Yeah.
But I kind of gave that up because it's hard to get into the pro scene. It's hard to get into the pro scene when you're not in the US.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's a little bit different for games like CS:GO because that's more of a European audience and that. So it really just depends on where you are, but we don't really have that much things like that over
I think
here,
it's
you know what I
becoming
mean?
more so. I think there's sort of like it's becoming. I think now how collaborative being with Australia we are with online games in that sort of scene.
Yeah.
It's becoming a little bit more that way now. Because I sort of had some insight into that a little bit because there's a guy who was a good friend of mine who's no longer in touch with me for some random reason. Used to be a part of that esport, like used to foster in their sort of esports communities here in New Zealand, and yeah, obviously like it was a real development over a long time to get to where they are now. But now they're actually at the point where you can have those inter-Oceania championships with people, and they're quite regular. Certainly CSGO League is obviously the big ones, but I think Call of Duty will get there. I think it probably is there in some respects, but as I said, it's the US, and obviously CSGO is a bit more of a game that's more applicable to us. But yeah, it's certainly coming, and I think now that was back sort of 4 or 5 years ago. But nowadays, with companies sponsoring it, and obviously having that interoperability with Australians who obviously have a bit more of a population, a bit more of a push, then it's certainly on its way to becoming quite big for sure. Yeah.
That's a good point, and I think during COVID as well.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these things, it's stopping a lot of esports to be, it's preventing people from esports to be able to compete in like LAN events and everything.
Yeah.
And I got invited to a LAN event up in Auckland a few years back.
What was it called?
I can't remember. It was during Advanced Warfare. I forget what year that came out.
Okay.
But they ended up having to shut that down for God knows what reason. But we used to play in online tournaments against a lot of Australian teams, and that we actually, so there's a thing that happens every year called Call of Duty Champs.
Right.
It's a $1 million tournament, and it's held in America, so Australian teams get flown over there and that. And we went up against one of the teams that one of the Australian teams that actually beat one of the best COD teams that year. Which is very impressive for them.
Yeah.
And we ended up just steamrolling them.
Oh, really?
And like,
oh my god.
We were talking. We're like, fuck. We really need to hit up some organization or something.
Yeah, for sure.
There's no, like, these guys were sponsored.
Yeah.
Everything like that. They had a whole organization behind them, and they couldn't. They were able to get to these places where we couldn't because we weren't sponsored.
Oh, so I'm going to interrupt
the
chat
money.
a little bit. Sorry, Draga, thank you very much for popping in, my friend. Appreciate you stopping by. Actually, really, really good to see someone from another community pop in. But I don't normally pay attention to chat. But thank you very much for saying hello. And then we'll get back to our scheduled topic. Sorry about that. Just sort of,
no, you're right.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just didn't have the sponsorship. We didn't have the money to fly over there to get in there. And what happens with COD Champs, they hold a floor at the start of it. So they have online qualifiers.
Yeah.
So you can go for that. And then usually what they do is for any teams who didn't compete in the online qualifiers, they have a massive little tournament that isn't aired online for people to just join and see what they can do. And it gives people just an extra chance. But again, that's in the US, and you have to get kind of invited into the online qualifiers.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
We did it this year for Cold War.
Oh, yep.
We got eliminated, but yeah, that was like, we had one guy on our team who hadn't played. Yeah, and this was like the same team that we used to be
really good with.
That we used to be really good with. But we all stopped playing for a few years, and then we kind of got back together because, the Call of Duties that were coming out are actually quite nice.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing it this year. I said I'd coach them in that because I don't, with my stream and all of that. I don't have time to fully compete anymore. 2, my streams don't do as well when I'm streaming COD.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of my viewers prefer other things, so that's fine. But yeah, like, I still love it, man. Like, Vanguard, when that dropped on the 5th, I had some mixed opinions at the start, like at the first few days. I played a little bit of it last night, and I actually really enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
Um,
but not on stream, right? Yeah.
No, I didn't play on stream, and I don't know. I got mixed feelings about it. I could go into it, but
oh yeah,
be a
we could
massive
be here all
rant.
day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, all good, man. No, it's good, and yeah, we've all got those games we come back to.
Yeah, exactly.
And
if they did throwback tournaments, I'd be on that shit.
Yeah, like I know, like
I'd be on that shit.
I you know, like the last, like I haven't played the latest Need for Speed game, but I always go back to Need for Speed, and like Gran Turismo. Like I haven't owned a PlayStation since the PlayStation 2, but if I got the opportunity, Forza, yeah,
Forza's basically the new Gran Turismo.
It is for me. It won my heart because my heart was on Gran Turismo, and I didn't want to play. I didn't want to pay for a. I didn't want to pay for a PS3, and I had a 360 at the time. So I was like, okay, I'm playing Forza, and it won me over. Realistically, like I just loved the hell out of that game, and take care for you, sir. Take care. And it's just like one of those things that I'll just. If I had the opportunity to play a PS2 again, I would. And I do have an emulation working on my computer, and I do have a couple of games, like the old Burnout games, amazing stuff. And obviously some of the stuff that you can't get on PC, you can work on that too. But yeah, it's just, I think they've designed games now in a way that is almost easier. They've actually made games easier than they were back when you were a kid, I think. And it's like, because and it's a bit sad because like you don't get introduced to that real steep learning curve anymore that you used to. And I know like The Witcher, Metro was probably a really quite difficult game. Yeah, The
Witcher definitely has a learning curve. I can tell you that much.
Yeah. And
that's one game that I can say that does. And 100%.
The Fallout 4 and stuff and Fallout.
Oh yeah.
They've got quite a learning curve to them, but it's just not. It's not the same. It's not like that real like, oh, I'm chucked in the deep end now. I've got to work out what the hell I'm doing. Yeah. Off the bat, and yeah, but there's always games like that. They're just like, it's kind of like
it's a good and a bad thing.
Absolutely, for sure. Okay, well, we're going to open up chat now. We've opened up chat, and I suppose we're going to open the floor up to sort of any tech topic or gaming topic, engineering, science, controversial opinions that are regarding those sort of things. And I'm here to sort of listen to what you have to say and sort of anything I can sort of respond to, or at this point sort of having that interaction, because I know during those sort of intense topics didn't have the opportunity to say good day to everybody, but any sort of one want to sort of have any if you yourself want to say anything, feel free, or any questions that might interest you, anything that sort of like, kind of reminded myself of something that I wanted to talk about during the course of the show, then just feel free. This is the time, because we're now. It's alright. Yeah.
I'm sussed, man. This has been good.
It's been good. I mean, I'll give it 10 minutes. We'll have a bit of a yarn for 10 minutes, and then
sure.
And if people are not wanting to say anything, then we'll close it down from there. But
I gotta say, half of the things you're talking about, I don't know anything about. So I've learned a few things, but like I'm really bad when it comes to tech stuff.
Hey,
especially hardware to PCs.
You're not the only one who said that, who's going to be coming on this show. So like I'm sure Xenos is going to be exactly the same next week, dude.
I feel like he'll know more about it than I do. I mean, he's very intelligent when it comes to things that he's passionate about. I've spoke to him about firearms and everything, and man, that guy's like you are with hardware. He's like that with firearms. Yeah. So it's quite cool, man. It's cool.
Rayan in chat said, I can't believe I'm playing Forza Horizon. Thank you for dropping in, Rayan.
Horizon 5.
I cannot get it working for the life of me.
Really?
No. I've tried absolutely everything that everybody has said to do to try and get it going. It doesn't.
Wait, is it on Game Pass?
It's on Game Pass. Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna have to download it because Forza Fridays, man.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to be able to do it if this game doesn't launch.
Really?
Yep. I'm not going to be able to, because what happens is initially when I first had it, I didn't apply any of the fixes that people were saying, so it would crash every probably about 1 or 2 minutes, and I couldn't even get through the intro mission. There's a mission you have to do before you get into the festival.
Yeah,
and I couldn't get through that, and then by pure coincidence, I could get through that challenge, so I made it to the festival, and I think I did one mission, and I crashed. I crashed quite a bit during that too.
That sucks, bro.
And then now I can't even leave the garage at the festival without it crashing.
I was gonna say because we're doing Forza Fridays like every week. It's Saturdays for us, but Fridays for the for the Americans. But
yeah,
I was gonna say like, I'm looking forward to it. My Forza Horizon 4 stream, how 20 viewers for God knows how long. Like that game does wonders for like viewership.
I love Horizon. Like that's the first. Well, that's not the first Horizon I've played. I played the Horizon 1 and Horizon 2, and I enjoyed the heck out of them. Horizon 2 not so much because it was the 360 copy, and it was nowhere near what the Xbox One version was. I'd never owned an Xbox One, so I wouldn't know. But I saw reviews of what the Forza Horizon 2 was. Like they were playing it on the Xbox One. I was like, this game isn't the same game that I'm playing, right? It is, and apparently it's just completely different. But I didn't
last gen. So
yeah, true, exactly. And then I didn't play Horizon 3. Because I didn't have Game Pass at the time. And now I've played the hell out of Horizon 4. Enjoyed absolutely every moment of it. It's what I expected out of Forza. Actually, it's just where it's been and where it's at. And
it was my first Forza game.
Oh really? Wow.
Yeah, okay. I do have Forza Motorsport 2 on the 360, but I only got that recently.
Yeah.
When I was like collecting for the 360. And
yeah.
I haven't tried it yet, though. I probably will at some point, but Horizon 4 was my first, and I got into it a couple months back when I got the Xbox One, so I could do Forza Fridays with all the boys and that.
Yeah,
and bro, it's so good. It's such a dope game, and now that Horizon 5's coming out, I'm gonna be able to fresh start everything with everyone else because everyone else was so far ahead of me.
Yeah, exactly right.
So much that I didn't know. So going into Horizon 5, I'm gonna still be learning stuff. They'll obviously have an advantage on me just simply from playing Horizon 4 for God knows how long.
Yeah.
But like, it's a fun game, man. Especially like I like the community too because you can suck so badly at that game and they'll just come in and chat. And
Absolutely. Yeah, like I thought I was pretty good at racing games, but the people that I play with because I play Forza on Saturdays as well, a bit later than you guys finish, unfortunately. There's a couple of guys I play with who just carry the hell out of me. Like I'm pretty good at racing games, but frick, they're just that much better.
That's how I feel, man. Yeah, that's how I feel playing Forza Fridays, but I don't mind because.
No, I don't mind either.
Playground. They do the playground games a lot, and that's what I enjoy.
Yeah, and as long as you
can kind of just fuck around and laugh.
Yeah, as long as you're like winning the races at the end of the day because they're winning and they're in your team, then it doesn't matter. Like and like as long as you want, I'm obviously wanting to get better. So as long as you're trying to get better, then that's all. It's all that counts, and it's a fun time. And I like the experimentation, the tuning. And the drifting as well was something I just recently got into on that game.
I just copy other people's tunes. Fair
enough. I never really got into it at the start, but I was like, actually, if I want to make this vehicle a bit better, I've actually got to learn to make it better because obviously it can be better. It's just a matter of getting it to that point, and that's sort of where I so I thought that's sort of where you need to go to do it.
Of course.
Yeah, but but no, when it works, I'm going to be very enthused because I've seen glimpses. Obviously, like I've played it for about 10 minutes over the many hours that I've actually managed to get it to be troubleshooting it, and it's a really, really beautiful game. And the environment I didn't think would actually work as well as it has, but it's actually really cool.
The new map looks. So, whereabouts is it set?
It's in Mexico.
Thought so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks so nice.
Yeah, it is. And
I feel like it's a much better environment than the cloudy UK.
Oh yeah, I just didn't think like how they would integrate Mexico into like a really festive, differentiated. Because like Mexico's a desert, right? And I thought, well,
somewhat, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, how could they make a desert an exciting place to be? If you know what I mean, like, but they managed to. They've seemed to have pulled it off, and that's because I thought, as UK is sort of like there's quite a differentiating sort of, there's a lot of mountains, there's like a lot of city areas, densely packed city areas, and I thought that was kind of a cool map to have because it was quite a different scene. Like Horizon 3 looked really cool too, being like on the Australian Paradise area, which was, as I said, that was kind of a cool place to be.
Well, it's going to be Horizon 5 is going to be very vibrant, so I feel like it'll draw a lot of people in. Yeah, just by the look of it,
Yeah, I'm sure it will because it's sort of like, Horizon 4 is 3 years old now, and it's like EA hasn't brought out anything, and the new Race Driver Grid just didn't do any well. Gran Turismo still hasn't released anything because their release cycle is just crazy.
I hardly hear about Gran Turismo anymore, man.
Yeah,
it's the same with Need for Speed, but Need for Speed's still kicking. I think the last Need for Speed game I played was on the PS3, and that was Need for Speed Shift.
Shift? Oh, yep.
That was good, but it could have been a lot better. My favorite is Underground 2, like no doubt.
Yeah, I think my top 3 Need for Speeds are interchangeable. Depends on what you actually like about Need for Speed. Because my top 3 would have to be Most Wanted, Underground 2, and Carbon.
They're actually, I played a little bit of that.
And like if you enjoyed the customization and a little bit of story, Underground 2.
In the open world.
Too, well, so they're all of them open world.
Are they?
Yeah.
I thought they were like more tracks in there. That was what Shift was.
Shift,
racing tracks.
Yeah, Shift sort of diverted off, but the Carbon.
I think that's when they introduced the driving lines.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's correct. Because Carbon's open world and Underground and Most Wanted is open world. If you like cop chases, then Most Wanted is hands down. I would believe that would probably be my favourite game out of the series if you really dig down into it, because it's got a good story. It's got you're on the edge of your seat all the time because of the cop chases, and it's got a really clear progression system. And and I think I really enjoyed that aspect of that game. Because I never finished it up until I did my Let's Play series, and that's sort of what I enjoyed quite a lot. But if you like an even better story, and you like if you like even more in-depth customization, Carbon is probably where it's at for you too, because that sort of has drifting. It sprung drifting back from Underground 2, and it's actually drifting on Pro Street. Not Pro Street. Carbon is quite fun because you get the whole downhill sections and kind of like what you got in Underground 2 a little bit there as well.
I just like the whole boy racer kind of nightlife,
and I think that's
style.
Absolutely, and I think like obviously those 3 games encapsulate that in different facets. You know what I mean? Like, with Most Wanted, you're on the blacklist, so you're a wanted guy. You're causing shit. You're getting the cops after you, and they're trying to frickin' stop you any way they can. And they've sort of integrated that into the story quite significantly, and that's sort of like why I enjoyed that aspect of that game. But obviously the boy racer thing with you being sponsored and you bloody, working your way up the street racing scene, that's Underground 2. But if you want to combine those two in a different way, like you're a boy racer, but you're a badass at the same time, and you're trying to have a really in-depth story. Carbon encapsulates that. But I think the most underrated Need for Speed game, I guess it's sort of controversial in some instances, would have to be Pro Street. And
I never played that one.
No, a lot of people haven't, and a lot of people really didn't like it because it was so much out on a whim compared to because to me, it was almost the perfect combination of what the Underground 2 vibes and what Shift was trying to employ with the track racing, because it's you're sort of like a boy racer, but you sort of come and done legal racing rather than the illegal racing style of things, and you're trying to work your way up to be the best track racer that you can. But it's got a really good story, a little bit, and well, it's not really a story, but it's got again a very clear progression system, and you have to upgrade your car and you have to modify it in certain ways to do certain things.
Yeah.
And it's just to me, for a game that's sort of differentiating itself from what Need for Speed used to be in a lot of ways, it sort of does really encapsulate that a lot better than what people probably originally thought that it did. Because Shift, I enjoy Shift 2. I never actually played the original Shift, so I don't know what that was like.
That's the only one I played. It was basically just Pro Streets and everything like that.
Yeah, but I enjoyed Shift 2 because it sort of had that. It was a more realistic version of Shift, and it had that car modification aspect that the original one didn't have, which was kind of cool. But again, I think they went to Pro Street. Oh no, they didn't go to. No, Pro Street was before Shift 2 actually. But yeah, it was kind of that, and obviously they tried to work their way back into that illegal street racing kind of scene with Need for Speed 2015, which again is quite underrated. A lot of people just didn't like that game because it was just nowhere near what people were expecting at the time. But I enjoy it, and I think I do play that every so often. And then there was Payback, which kind of had 2015, but it had a bit more of a story to it, which is kind of cool at the same time. And then there was Heat, which I haven't played yet, and I think if people do want to see me play that, I'll play that on my Friday streams, because I sort of want to leave that as a surprise, because I sort of want to see what the latest one has to offer. But yeah, it's sort of so that's sort of a bit of my history of Need for Speed, and the fact that it just sort of sucked me in so much, and it's one of those ones I keep going back to, even though it's not the most realistic game in the world, it's not the most in-depth game in the world, but
it's meant to be arcadey.
Yeah, absolutely, and it just seems to be one of those games you go, oh, you know what, it's actually, you're going to have a good time because they've had a lot of good games in the past. So I'm just curious to see what Heat has to offer.
I would like to see them bring back or do an Underground 3.
Yeah,
but I don't know if that'll happen.
Yeah, and I guess there's a really sad thing that happened with that, and I guess this is kind of why the rumours of that has sort of fallen to the point where I don't think they'll ever do it, because EA acquired Criterion Games, who made the Burnout series back in the day. I loved Burnout. That was such a real chill vibe, kind of crashing into people's sort of games. It was real fun.
Although the one thing that I liked about those games is that a lot of them trying to be really good at the racing aspect of it. With that one, just kind of forced you to be like, "Fuck it, crash." Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I think it had almost a perfect balance, because there was a real crashing aspect of it, but there was also the racing aspect of it too, which obviously forced you to actually be quite good at that sort of. So it was almost a perfect mix of the crashing and the racing in a lot of regards. But so EA bought them, and then they made Hot Pursuit. Yes, they made Hot Pursuit, which was 2011 or 2010.
I've heard that's really good.
No.
Or is it a different one that I'm thinking of? Oh, no, I'm thinking of Paradise. Never mind.
Oh, Burnout. Oh, yeah. So this is Burnout Paradise. Great game. Yeah, that's Burnout. That was the last Burnout game they made before EA bought them. But anyway, so they made Hot Pursuit, and that was kind of almost to me like a Need for Speed skinned Burnout game. So it was kind of like, what the hell are they doing? Then they remade Most Wanted. which was like which was an even worse game if you ask me. That was probably the bottom of the barrel in Need for Speed games, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But before they did that, there was a concept of what they made there's a leaked concept of what Most Wanted would have looked like before Criterion got too involved in the production of it. And it actually looked like what Underground 3 would have been. Like, obviously there was a lot of missing things. There was no real detail in the graphics and stuff like that because it was sort of very early build, because they obviously took it over quite soon on in the project. And it was kind of like they were trying to remake Underground 3. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe there was some hope for... And I think that's sort of what turned into 2015 in a lot of regards, because they sort of tried to recreate that underground racing scene that that games from almost 20 years ago now tried to encapsulate. And so it's like, if that project got canned and remade as something else, then they're not going to bring... I don't think they're going to bring back the original Underground 3, unless there's a real surprise sort of push for like the next game, because we're all hoping for it, right? We're all pushing and begging EA to do something, and it's just a matter of just seeing what they're going to do with what they can do, because obviously they're not, Black Box isn't Black Box anymore. It's Ghost Games, and they're taking that to a different vibe in some aspects. I mean, Heat tried. I think I watched a little bit of Heat. I think they tried a little bit, but it's not a full recreation of that real tuner, scene where you're doing illegal street racing and trying to actually work your way up to being the best. That real sense of achievement that you used to get in that game. And again, that's why things have moved on. It's not quite that, it's not quite that learning curve that you had back in the day, no doubt. So
it's very different.
Yeah, for sure. And like, that's why I think Forza has just sort of taken over for me, because it's met expectations. It's just, and it's kind of exceeded expectations in a lot of ways, because I played a lot of Forza on the 360, and then I moved into Horizon. I was like, when I first heard of Horizon, I was like, what the hell are Forza doing? Like, honestly, I was quite blown away, and I was like, they're actually making an open world game? Like, Forza are known for making competitive track racing games. That's what they did, and that's what they're really good at. And I was like, why are they trying to bring that into an arcadey landscape when their engine and their physics won't translate equally over to...
It worked perfectly.
It did. It actually worked beyond my belief that it was actually going to be...
They raised the bar.
They did. And
I don't think they were going to fall. I think how like Gran Turismo used to be one and the only competitor with Need for Speed. Well, then Horizon or Forza came out of the gate just swinging. And
yeah, they did.
Neither of those two can compete with it anymore, I feel.
No, not to the same level. And I know Gran Turismo has a real audience of people who are real esports enthusiasts, and they've still got their Gran Turismo program. Like, if you win the tournament, you get to drive a real racing car type of thing as well. They've got that niche audience, but I think because of the slight arcade nature, mixed with a lot of realism, plus the open world aspect, you're gonna be pretty hard pressed to compete with that. And I think EA needs to do something big if they're gonna try again to do anything close to what Horizon is now bringing to the table, because as you said, they've just sort of come out swinging, and they're like, well, it's going to be a big ask for anybody to sort of take that away from them.
I think the thing is as well is that as big as the esports community is, the casual audience is just 10 times bigger at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think they're gonna cater to the majority.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean that's just how it is.
Yeah,
that's how it's always been with most games. Like, there's more casual gamers than competitive gamers.
Yeah,
for anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the only game that you can say is not like that is CS:GO. because that whole game is
built for competitive play.
Yeah, it's built around that.
Yeah.
Everyone who plays it plays competitive. You don't see casual players on that.
You can't. Well, you'd literally have 1 or 2 matches, and you'd be like, "What am I doing here?"
Yeah,
Like,
the only people that play casual on CS:GO are people that are trying to get better for competitive.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they're just starting out and they're not good enough for comp, so they play casual to try and warm up or whatnot. And
yeah, exactly right. And that's why I refused to install that game. I
used to love it, man. I sold about $2,000 of skins the other day. Not the other day, a couple months ago.
Wow, yeah.
And bought a lot of Steam games of that.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, for sure.
Because I just don't play it anymore, and I had a couple knives, some really expensive skins, but which weren't actually that expensive when I got them. But because of how long the game's been out since I've played it, and how old those skins are, and how hard they are to get now. You chuck them on the marketplace, people are fucking throwing money at it.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Yeah, absolutely.
So you can put the prices up, man.
Yeah,
My inventory when I had it was worth $800. Sold it for $2,000.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. So, yeah, for sure. Like you can, and like that's why I don't like CS:GO's now a free to play game, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that went free to play a couple years back.
Yeah, it did. Because I had it when I think I got given a code when I bought like a CPU a few years back, and I was just like, "Oh God, am I actually going to try and play this?" And I never did. And I'm glad that I haven't sort of put my brain or my PC through all that mental stress of actually trying to enjoy a game that I'm never going to be able to enjoy.
I tell you what, when you get good at CS:GO, that game is incredibly fun.
Yeah. Oh, it probably is if you're that way inclined. If you like competitive games.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean, I came from Call of Duty to that, and it was a massive. But you put in all you know from shooters into that, and you'll be sweet.
Yeah.
It's all it is just learning how to aim and position yourself and everything. Like.
And I guess my experience of shooting games is a hell of a lot less than racing, so it's going to be like even more of a steeper learning curve.
Yeah, exactly. If you haven't played shooters that much, you're gonna struggle.
Yeah, I am, and I think that's why it's going to be quite funny to see me try and play a shooting game. It's going to be. I think that seems to be the leading game in the poll at the moment.
What's that?
Shooting games. Yep, I've got 6 votes for that. Yep. So people are going to try and see me. I don't know what game it's. I'm going to just list the games that I've.
Try out CS:GO.
No. This is like a let's play. This is like I'm going to 100% the game. Like it's got to be something with a story, right? So I'm going to.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Have you tried the Crisis series before?
Yes, I have. I've got Crisis.
I feel like you would thoroughly enjoy.
I've gotten through a bit of Crisis 2. I might try Crisis 3. That might be on my list. But I'm going to put a poll out probably at the end of this week with all the games that I'm willing to play, and then I'll see what the top voted game is on that. Someone did recommend me on Friday's stream this week to play Dark Souls.
I've never played them, but I've heard they're fucking.
Oh, I know. I made an agreement because I think it was one of my mods who said it. He said, "Look, what I'll do is if there's enough attention for it, I might make another stream day, and I'll just might dedicate that to try and play Dark Souls because I'm not going to bother. I don't think I'm going to get 100% through it, but it's just going to be a bit of just a fucking crack up.
Try not to die.
Well,
good luck. Though.
No, it's not going to work, man, because I know that you do. Because there's somebody I watched who was doing a subathon, and she had never played Dark Souls before, and she said, "Oh, if I got to the skull, I'll play it," and she did, and she's died like 200 times.
Yeah, what majority of people do with that game is they put on a death count.
Yeah, they do. She's got a death counter on. Yeah, and it's already at like 200. And it's like, that's going to be me, isn't it? Probably, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so I might make a dedicated stream.
I gotta give that game a go at some point.
Yeah, I think I Dark Souls 1 given to me, I believe, like a pirated one, because I don't own it on Steam or anything like that because I'm too poor.
Yeah.
And so that would be probably the one that I'd do. But yeah, I know, I heard it's just one of the most ruthless games you could possibly ever play.
G2A, bro. If you
G2A.
can't afford it on Steam, go
Yeah,
on
get
G2A.
on G2A. Yeah. Not sponsored. But yeah.
I wish.
Yeah. Oh no, I don't like G2A actually. I got ripped off from them.
Oh, real?
Yeah, I bought Company of Heroes 2 through them, and they never gave me a key.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I tried many times to contact support, and they said, yeah, we'll do something. They never did, so I've never been back there.
Fuck that.
But that was shit.
I've never had that experience.
No, I was pretty gutted
That
up until that point.
I bet.
And then just sort of one day, I'm like, nah, I'm not going to give you a key. So I was like, all right, fine. See you later. But,
Rough.
Yeah, rough as, dude. Well, we've been 2.5 hours.
Shit.
Yeah, we've been 2.5 hours, and thank you very much. Your time flies, and I know your podcast. If you want to shout yourself out in chat, please do. Now's your time, and go watch this amazing guy. He is normally on camera, but today he's not, so I do apologise about that. I have turned links on, so you don't have to worry about Nightbot
There you go.
or anything.
There's my link.
Awesome, dude. But when are you on next?
Thursday I've got the Uncultured podcast, so we'll be doing that on Xenos' channel.
Okay.
So that'll probably go for an hour, 2 hours, and then we basically do our own streams, which we usually collab in our streams as well. Anyway, although last week I didn't because Vanguard dropped, and then I took one day off. But yeah, usually me and him, we just play whatever we feel like. Back for Blood, No Man's Sky, anything, you know. So yeah, no, it's quite fun. He's a good lad.
He is, exactly. Yeah, no, I owe him a lot, and I'll certainly be sort of, and I certainly appreciate you coming by and saying yes, thank you. Buddy. I'll come and have this chat that I've got no idea what the hell I'm on about, and basically
I had to look at the notes last night, and I was like, what?
I should have given you more time. I apologise.
No, it's fine. I wouldn't have even been able to look over that and learn anything. So it's fine. I don't mind coming into a conversation I don't know shit about.
No, it's all good. That's what I'm hoping that I sort of was able to sort of give you some explanation about what the hell I'm on about.
Put Xenos on his ass when he comes on, man.
Yeah, I hope. Yeah. He wants. I think he wants to debate with me whether Ubisoft should be burnt to the ground, and maybe. And I think I might have to school him on that a little bit.
Sounds alright. Sounds about right.
Yeah, no, thank you very, very much, my friend. Go follow Big Sugar.
No problem, mate.
And I will see you. And I didn't get anybody in chat, which was a shame because we had about 7 or 8 viewers there for a while. But it's one of those things. But yes, come and
it happens.
it does happen, exactly. Come and follow my YouTube. This is where the VOD will be uploaded. So if you did miss part of the stream today. Come and because I've got a lot of videos up there that are not public because I don't have a description for them yet. But once I've got a description, they'll be public. Also, if you want to come on here, feel free to give me a DM if you're interested in having a chat with me. I've got a couple of spaces left for 2021. I've got a few guests coming on, so if you want to say short about tech for an hour or two, like we've seen today. Then absolutely come and feel free. But otherwise, my schedule, as always, is Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays GMT plus 12 for you folks over there, which is about sort of 1 or 2 in the morning for US folks, which is quite late, but oh well, it's one of those things. And I'll see you again on Friday for the last Juice 2 stream ever. We're coming to the very end of that now, so. If you want to follow and get some hype and chat for that one, looking forward to seeing you there. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. Appreciate everybody who came in today and Big Sugar for being my guest. As always, it's certainly a privilege to have some folks on and doing this live because I did this for YouTube and it's been quite a different vibe being on here, but that's all cool. Yeah, we'll see you all again next time. Thank you for now. Peace out for now. Bye-bye. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Sugar. Thank you very much, man.
Yeah, no problem, mate. I gotta head off.
Awesome.
But yeah, thanks for having me on.
No worries. No, my pleasure. My pleasure at all. All right, dude. Catch you again next time.
Yeah, catch you later. Have a good day.
You too. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. I'll see you all again on Friday for the Last Juice 2 stream. Saturday for Forza. As you know, I won't be here this Saturday. If you want to come and join my Discord link is there before I head off. And looking forward to seeing you all in another stream. I'll play some music ends out as always. And webcam same as this will be uploaded to YouTube. And yeah, hopefully we can see you all another time. Okay, play some music. Thank you very much. Won't be rating out, but come and chat to me in chat if you want to. I'll be in chat for a little bit. And see you then. Bye bye.
This time we are gonna get it down. It's time to show that we don't fall. Tonight we're gonna get on down. I'm gonna show you what it's like to party every night until it's gone. Look into my eyes and tell me what you see. Look into my eyes and tell me the way I feel.